the office manager is averaging over 600 contacts a month while doing the work alone. She had noted that when the role first started, we were averaging around 200 incidents. The number has increased as noted. Betty had also noted that if you know anyone who is interested in volunteering with the NAACP office, contact the office at 916-856-0155. We're always in need of volunteers. For the treasurer report, all the monthly bills were paid. We also, Lorraine Moore gave an overview of the year-end report, and that report was submitted on time and it was approved. Lorraine Moore had moved to approve the report. Angelina seconded the motion and the motion passed. If you would like information about the report, please contact Lorraine Moore, and her email was included. Lorraine Moore also presented an overview of the budget for the prayer breakfast. That motion was approved by Lorraine, and it was moved by Lorraine and seconded by Ordell Harrison. We did have a discussion about the profit last year, noting that we made a profit of $1,000. And then noted that the tickets for the prayer breakfast was almost sold out. Let's see, and the treasurer report was approved by the executive committee. It was also noted that if you would like a copy of the treasurer report, contact the treasurer, Lorraine Moore, or the assistant treasurer, Daphne Gauthier. Betty went over her report. She noted that there was a lot of great work that was happening while she was traveling. She attended a lot of events, such as a EAP carb protest. She also attended the Tyree Nichols family, in which Councilwoman Lisa Kaplan renamed the Regency Park in Atomas after Tyree Nichols. She went over the Dine and Chew program, and noted that we are winding down the year end for the Dine and Chew program. She noted that the program continues to bless our community, and that she also noted that she had meetings with Supervisor Cerna and Kennedy of the County Board of Supervisors for additional funding, and the mid-year report was submitted. She did note that she would keep everyone updated as things progress about the Dining 2 program. She also gave an update of the Sutter Roosevelt Hospital discrimination complaints. She noted that the Sutter Roosevelt has requested a meeting with the NAACP and wants to schedule another meeting to discuss how they can better serve our community and do more partnerships. We were invited to participate in Oakland's NAACP leadership meeting. That was canceled, however, due to the California-Hawaii NAACP training. She also went over the shooting by the Elk Grove police officer. In Mr. Pornell, Ken Nelson was invited to see the body cam footage. Hold on. And more information was forthcoming. She also met with Governor Newsom on the upcoming budget and presenting how our Black communities are still suffering and the appropriate funding is not getting to our community. Betty did give a shout out to Lorraine Moore, who wrote the proposal. Betty did ask the governor to give $500 million to Black communities. So as mentioned, Lorraine Moore created a proposal that was submitted to the governor. And Ms. Betty noted that the focus of the monies was on outreach, more technical support, and more training for our communities and the underserved. And finally, she reported on the Greater Sacramento NAACP and California Black Chamber of Commerce. They hosted a meet and greet at Fixings Restaurant with Congresswoman Barbara Lee, who was running for the Senate seat. We see that she did give a shout, as mentioned, she did give a shout out to the reports that were presented at the executive meeting. One particular shout out she mentioned was the economic report presented by Teron Irvings. She noted that, he had the opportunity to present his report, noting that his committee had 14 members. His committee has been very active in the community. For example, 432 jobs were distributed through the communities in February 2023. They have 17 partnerships. Again, the economic report has been very active. So I'm not going to read over everything. Let me see, Belma's
Actually, if you summarize everything, because I know it's a long report.
yeah.
So if you do just more of a summary, that would be great.
Okay. Velma Sykes presented an overview of the Sacramento Black Expo. For unfinished business, Betty noted that we went over the environmental justice report, and Betty did a presentation about the work Larissa is doing for environmental justice at the previous general meeting. For new business, Angelina and Lorraine provided updates on the status of the prayer breakfast. At that point, we still had one vendor table left, and tickets were available. The awards that were to be given for Community Outreach Award for Rick Warren, Unsung Hero Report to Gina Warren, the Community Outreach Report to Greater Emmanuel Church, Pastor Jerron Heim. And the speakers were as listed. We also went over, let me see. There was also a housing discrimination call that came into the office, in which the housing team, as well as Ardell Harrison, were working with Miss Blackwell on that. And then the NAACP Youth in College, Miss Betty noted that the previous youth advisor, Deshaunus Gray, will no longer serve this role. The new youth advisor is Jalil Baker. And then for announcement, we had daylight savings time, and we went over the legal redress every third Saturday from 10 a.m. to 12. The volunteer sign up for the NAACP, and if you would like to be a member, we include information on how to do so. And then the meeting was adjourned at 11:27 a.m. and the town hall was postponed for this month.
Great job, Janice. That's a lot. Great job. As you bring up the agenda, I'm going to go ahead and move forward with the motion to accept the minutes as presented in red. And I just need someone to move that motion.
I move the motion that the agenda is accepted as read.
Thank you, Lorraine, for
Lynn,
that
second.
motion. And who was the second? Who was that?
Lynn, second.
Oh, Lynn. Okay. Lynn, second the motion. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions? So moved. Great report. And so membership, is that also you, Janice?
Yes, yes, today. So for the month of March, we had 11 new members as well as 2 subscribing members.
Yay. Okay. Do we have the office report, the most recent one?
I have not received the office report.
Okay. And so maybe we'll show just next month. But I do know we average like 600 some odd touches every month. And when I asked Nicole about her report, I know she turned it in, but she turned it in past the deadline, so it wasn't presented during the executive meeting. But when I asked her about it, she said this month it was closer to like 740 for the month. And so just means our numbers are increasing. And so I share this because it's important to know that the work is consistent. Although we're open Monday through Friday, 9 to 4, we only have one paid person. And so that's why I always say anyone who wants to volunteer for the office to help out poor Nicole, that would be great. So that's the membership report, office report, treasurer. Okay. Lorraine, you're up for the treasurer's report and all the action items that's related to the treasurer's report.
All righty. Hi, everyone. This is Lorraine Moore, your treasurer. I'm going to share my screen and I'm going to go over the financial report. The action items is to approve the 2023 R&B Festival budget. We have the projected amounts here at the top on lines 2 through 18. The projected amount of $83,375 if we are to sell the tickets and get sponsorships as listed, with an anticipated expenditure of anticipated expenditure of $39,289, and that's the cost that we are looking to get approved today for the 2023 R&B Festival budget. Anticipated profit, $44,086.
And with that being said, Lorraine, did you pad the expenses?
Yes, I padded the expenses based on what we spent last year, and I padded them so that we don't go over or try not to go over budget this year. And I also included some items that we left off last year. For example, like Iceman
Okay.
bands.
And so this budget was approved to the finance committee and then brought forward to the executive committee and then approved at the executive committee. Now moving forward to the general membership, which is today for ratification. So with that being said, I am going to entertain a motion to approve the R&B Festival budget.
I
This
move
is
the motion.
Stacy.
Okay.
This is Stacy. I approve the R&B budget.
It's been moved by Stacy. Do I have a second?
Lorraine, second.
Lorraine has second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? So moved. Next action item for approval for finances.
Yes. As I pull up the flyer, the next action item is to improve sponsorship for the crab feed given by the organization called Voy. It is to sponsor a table, I believe, for the I'm
Crab
gonna show
feed. The
the
crab
crab.
feed. Yeah. And Voy means Voices of Youth. He does a tour, a college tour with Black youth every year, and this is a fundraiser for that event. I think the sponsorship started at 5,000, was the highest, and the lowest was like 850. The finance committee approved $500 for that crab feed, and brought it to the executive committee meeting on Thursday night, who also approved the $500. Now we're bringing it to general membership for ratification. And so I am going to, and this is the flyer, I am going to entertain a motion that we support the Voices of Youth College Tour for $500. That's the motion that I'm entertaining. I see your hand up, but Lynn, but before we go into your question, for the purposes of Robert rules, I need this motion.
I'll move.
Thank you. So it has been moved by Lynn. Do I have a second?
I second, Lorraine.
It's been seconded by Lorraine. Discussion. Lynn, what's your question?
Yes, I just wanted to know if this is in conjunction with Dr. Rowe and the HBCU tour he does with, yeah.
No, this is not in conjunction with Dr. Rowe.
Okay, thank you.
Different, yes. Good question. Other questions or discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions? So moved. Next action item.
Next action item is to approve a table sponsorship for the NAN event.
NAN is National Action Network. They will be celebrating, I don't know how many years with Nan, but one of the honorees is the Greater Sacramento branch of the NAACP. And the information came to our finance committee to support a table of 8 we approved up to $1,500, only to find out that the table is $1,200. So that was brought forth to the executive committee on Thursday night. The executive committee did approve the $1,200 to support National Action Network's event on May 5th, Cinco de Mayo, at the Galleria Library downtown. And so with that being said, I am going to entertain a motion to approve the $1,200 for the table sponsor for NAN, National Action Network, from the Sacramento branch. That is the motion that I am moving forward, entertaining to move forward.
This is Stacy. I move the motion.
It has been moved by Stacy. Do I have a second?
Lorraine, second.
It's been seconded by Lorraine. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions? So moved. Next action item. Moving right along.
The last action item is the Wells Fargo Small Business grant. And as I pull that up, we actually are on course to assist small businesses with becoming revitalized, or helping people to start their businesses by assisting with technical assistance and helping get it open. Wells Fargo did grant us $15,000, and we have a budget to allocate those funds in continuing that program.
And so as she's pulling that up, it's $15,000, but Wells Fargo requires a 501c3 to receive that grant. And as you know, we're a 50c4. We went through our MOU, or Higher Hope, as our fiscal sponsor. That takes a percentage out of that. So in this presentation, you'll see where the Higher Hope took their percentage, and then the rest came to the Greater Sacramento NAACP. And there's a breakdown on how it would be spent, including having a program coordinator, I can't read it quite, to oversee it, to make sure that it gets done. So that's the budget before you. I'm going to, and just so you know, this program has been successful. We've done it in the past and was able to support 17 new businesses, I believe it was.
It's 17 businesses, and our commitment was 10, so we exceeded the deliverable.
Okay, thank you. So I'm entertaining a motion to approve this budget to move forward with this grant.
This is Stacy. I move that motion.
It's been moved by Stacy. Do I have a second?
Lorraine, second.
It's been seconded by Lorraine. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? So moved. Any more action items, Madam?
That is it at this time. Thank you so much.
Okay. Oh, Lord. Okay. Thank you. As our secretary bring the agenda back up, I appreciate everyone's hard work on bringing issues like this. While she's bringing that up, part of my president's report, I was letting everyone know that I'm bringing back Valerie Scruggs, who was our secretary in the past, but she worked on special projects, and she was very vital in bringing and helping with proposals and contracts. One of which she helped was the city of Sacramento. And so one of the things that we've been doing this year is just trying to clean up with all the money we have on the table. And we have a lot of money on the table, but because we are a volunteer organization, sometimes we, and I myself, can't pull all the money that people have promised us. And so Valerie has promised to clean that up. One being the proposal that we sent the city, and they have granted us like $50,000 to do various programs, but each program was at a dollar amount. We voted it through while Valerie was here. She was making sure that those things happened so that we can continue to get those funds. And when she left, I put it in someone else's hands, and it just didn't get followed through. And as a result, we have $35,000 that's still on the table that we haven't collected and haven't followed through. So Valerie will be helping with that, which is part of my report. And so there's been some other follow through as far as other grants with La Familia and some others. And I've been in conversations with both Lorraine and Stacy on following up on those monies and making sure that we pull those in. So as hard as we work and we try to get the funding, we just need to be just as diligent to receive that back. Am I on my president's report? Is that that's probably where I am right now, right? So if you pull up my president's report, you'll see where I talked about Valerie already. I did have that meeting with Sutter this past month on the issues that we had with the family. And those of you who were part of the prayer breakfast, that family was highlighted during the prayer breakfast. And that story at the end of the day on how they were treated by Sutter Hospital was horrific. And I think the power of Mr. Clyde Sanders' voice itself just gave so much more weight than what I could ever do. But at the end of the day, what I can say is that the man that was right under the CEO was in the original meeting. The CEO has since left, is no longer there. The gentleman that was in the meeting that was up under him is now the interim CEO for Sutter. And I'm just so glad because he was in the room when he heard the horrific story of discrimination of this family within Sutter. And as a result, we asked for, there was one rule for this family or Black folks when it came to visitation of their loved ones. And then there was another rule for white visitation. So one of the things that I asked for was consistent visitation that's on the website and everywhere, and everyone followed the same rules. They have agreed and have already started implementing that. We asked for training of implicit bias and some other things with not just their low level staff, but including their doctors. The interim CEO agreed to that and has already started a commission. So we want to give them recommendation of who should be doing that training. In my meeting with them, I needed them to tell me part of this horrific story is out of retaliation for this family. They wanted, they were going to transfer the young man to San Diego with no family members and just nothing, and without the family permission or the patient's permission. It was pure retaliation. I wanted to know who put forth that order. If the patient didn't do it, and if the father who had power of attorney didn't do it, who did it? And so they're supposed to, I gave them, they said they needed a month. I gave them 2.5 weeks. They agreed. So we'll be back in 2.5 weeks for them to let me know that. I also wanted to know their grievance procedure, and on their website, they have a patient advocate, what you can do if you find yourself in these situations. And then there's a contact. What the complaints we've been getting, people have used that email and or phone number, and no one ever gets back with them, including this family. So I did not want to forget their grievances that they put into that contact using their website. Who did that go to? What happened to their concerns? Where are we with that? Just because we met in that room to stop the transfer and to give them their full visitation rights back didn't mean that their original grievances was going to be tabled or pushed under the rug. So I wanted to know what was going on with that and who's responsible for that, or is there anyone? Is that just there for decoration for people to put in something that goes to a black hole? So they agreed to come back with that. They also wanted to partner with the NAACP and to help and support with some of the issues when it comes to health concerns in our communities, such as diabetes and high blood pressure. What could they do to partner with the NAACP to help in that? And so I said they definitely could support. But I needed to go back to my health committee and my execs to see what that looked like. And so they agreed. And so I said I would have that ready for them by the time they came back with the answers that I needed. And they agreed to that. So there was a lot of moving pieces to the Sutter story that is still going on. But any questions regarding that? The only other thing that I know I'm not going to go over my entire executive committee meeting, my report, other than had a meeting with the general manager for KCRA, who bottom line just wanted to know how can they increase their Black viewership. And so there was a discussion with that. With that being said, one of the many things I said is that stop portraying us only in the least of light all the time. Can you highlight some of the great things that we're doing? And so what I can say, they did show up for our prayer breakfast yesterday. I'm thinking today is Sunday already. And they really reached out to us without a press release or anything, saying that they're going to try to do more positive stories with all Black organizations and or individuals. So that was a piece. We will be doing our resolutions later, so I'm not going to go over that because I know it's on the agenda already. And the Dine-In 2 program, the update is we're waiting on them to do two things: finalize that audit and to see if they approve us for the second year. But in the meantime, the program has been going great. We just have an awesome team of administrators as well as restaurant owners. So, and we continue to feed people every day, every single day. And what I can also say that KCRA is following up on the Dine-In 2 program, because the county let me know that they're a little bit nervous because Brandy Cummings has been on the trail wanting to know what's going on, how this help, what are you doing with the NAACP? And so they are in the midst of answering those questions. Yeah, in my report, it shows all the things for Sutter too, all the different things that I asked for them to come back. So I sort of talked about that already. And there was just so much more that was happening. What I can say that we just have an awesome team, all the executive folks in their reports, and that what they turned in was just beyond awesome. And I've seen the education report, just the veterans report, just everything. And I know we have something that goes out to our executive committee members on a Google Drive on what the other committees are doing. But Janice, and you can talk it over with Angelina, there needs to be a way we can get those reports to our general members so they know what those committees are doing. We had the great report for the economic chair. The health chair is on fire. I made political action, legal redress is they never stop. And I don't think we do a really good job of telling our story of all the work we do throughout the month before we get to general membership. So you don't have to answer that now, but I just need to figure out a way to get those type of reports to our membership so that at least they would have the opportunity to read it, and it may inspire them to want to join one of those committees. So Janice, can you just make a note of that and see if that could happen?
Yes.
Excellent. I'm going to leave it right there when it comes to the overall report. Any questions on the president's report? There were no action items, so I don't have to move anything. I am going to move to unfinished business, although I don't see the agenda right now, but I know this is on the agenda of unfinished business. So while Janice brings that up, I'm just going to bring up the prayer breakfast. And I know that's on unfinished business somewhere. Okay. The prayer breakfast was yesterday. It was absolutely awesome. It was one of the best ones that I feel that we've ever had. It was dang near standing room only. We had more vendors. We normally have 10 vendors. We had 14 this year. We normally cap it at 10. But we've never had this type of excitement wanting to be part of our prayer breakfast like it was this past week. Would anyone, and congratulations to Lynn and Lorraine on their awards. I'm so glad y'all were surprised. It's so hard to surprise the two of you, but congratulations on all the awardees. With that being said, does anyone that attended the prayer breakfast yesterday would like to chime in instead of hearing my voice? Anyone want to chime in on what they saw or feel or?
Yes, I would like to. That prayer
Okay.
breakfast was amazing. I felt like, I don't know, it could be just me, but it just felt like it doubled from last year. Maybe it just felt like that. But the room was packed. I have lots of pictures, and I'm just so happy that we only had maybe 1.5 tables that was empty out of 46 tables, and we originally agreed to do 20. So even in that, our original plans, we doubled that in size. And my family came. There was just so many, and everyone just had such a wonderful time. And when I tell you it was a star-studded event, I feel like we need to get Betty some security for next year, because she needs to be able to move through. Everyone wanted to just get pictures, and that's just how you can just tell the feel in the room. The program speakers was my favorite. They just lit the stage up, and I mean, they had people on their feet. It felt like church in there. And so it was a fun time. I enjoyed it again, and I feel like they just get better and better each year.
Excellent. Excellent. Any other feedback regarding prayer breakfast?
So this is Stacy. Since I've been coming, I've watched the prayer breakfast event just grow in magnitude, not only in people, but also in the space of spirituality and healing from the speakers this time. Just really, most of our speakers, I even remember when Martin Luther King Jr.'s daughter came, and that was powerful, had me in tears. So we've been having some really powerful speakers, but the three this last go were in concert with each other, and it just made it flow. And I believe that healing takes place at these places. It was very nice, a lot of camaraderie. It was like people were really getting together, really, connecting with NAACP as well as one another. And the look on the mayor's face to hear some of these things, like he has not heard them, right? So I think we really need to kind of circle back and keep him in the loop of what's going on, what we're fighting. It was just, for me to just be able to just sit back and just watch, and absorb what was happening in that room was amazing. And I thank God for that, because that's what the prayer breakfast was about.
Thank you, Stacy. Anyone else?
Love to go. This is Lynn, and I just want to thank everyone. Miss Betty, thank you in particular. It was just an amazing event. I think I'll add a different perspective about our youth. We had a lot of youth there as compared to other years, and I just would love to see that grow. It's super early. A lot of youth, really wanted to go. We actually had tickets for them, and they were like, when we called them the night before, they're like, Miss Lynn, it's too early. but the ones who came really enjoyed it. So the ones who can actually get themselves there, they loved it. And I just want to do a shout out to Nicole, who did a beautiful job singing our Black National Anthem.
Yeah.
It was really great. All the music was great. I think there were communities there who just haven't been there fully before, which I think it's growing. And I think the biggest downside is, what are we going to do when we're consistently sold out? Are we thinking about growing? And because I think there's potential to grow. This is a huge event. People love it. The clergy was great. And I'm fortunate to know all three of the people who preached yesterday. They're fabulous. And I just want to say thank you to the organizing team. They were just amazing. Amazing to all of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Lynn. Anyone else? Everybody's right on everything. Anyone else? I just want to give kudos to everything you guys said. We were intentional about getting the youth. Jalil was fabulous about getting the youth there. We were just intentional about so many things, and it just all came together. And you're right, we are outgrowing it. And I was talking to Angelina this morning saying, we might have to look at Sac State, because one of the things that people do like about the event is that the free parking. So it's like, where can we go that's a larger space that could give us the free parking and the staging? Because if we're getting close to 600, which the way that room is set up, it would have only been able to hold 600, and we were probably 37, 40 seats from being at 6. And so, which means people they start buying in January without even knowing who the keynote speakers were. And it bought up until the day of without even knowing who the keynote speakers were. And so that's huge. That's huge. And so I just want to congratulate the entire team for making this work with the clergy. It was just a mixture of people, just the various cultures, clergy, law enforcement, whether you wanted them there or not. I think they need prayer. That's why they come every year. It was just, I think people were uplifted when they left. It was that type of feeling that it gave them a charge for the rest of the day or week or month. And we really did. I felt like we really did have church. Just the way we have it in those Southern Black Baptist church or Kojic. Yeah. The only thing is we held them to 10 minutes. So it was all good. With that, as far as unfinished business, I had touched everything. How about looking at some other Black-owned venues for prayer breakfast? Is there a Black-owned venue that can hold 600 people or more? That's the question.
With parking.
With parking, free parking. That's the question. Unless we want to start a building fund of having our own event center, which may not be a bad idea, but anyway, that would be great. But you know what, Stacy, what we can do, I'm thinking out loud, if we have something like that at Sac State, don't we have the ability to bring in our own caterers? And so we will be able to bring in a Black caterer versus we don't have that flexibility at a hotel.
Yeah.
That might be an option, actually. Okay, let's think about that. And the only other thing is the Kwanzaa. We keep it on the agenda only because we haven't closed it out yet, and we haven't closed it out yet because we still have an outstanding balance due to us from the California Black Chamber. I did speak to the president and CEO about that. He has a plan together on to get that money to us. And so, and I trust the plan that he has that we will get that money. However, I'm going to keep it agendized until we do get that final check. So it'll remind us, and it helps me to follow up after a certain period of time to make sure we can close that out. But we still had a great Kwanzaa event. So I'm going to go to new business where we have the resolution. So let me explain resolutions, and then I'm going to go to Stacy and then Lynn. Where are we? Ooh, we're close to time. And so I'm going to do it the way we did it in the executive committee member meeting. So we have resolutions twice a year, first in April, and it's to whatever resolution that we put in place, it has to be, the April one has to be national in scope. We have another resolution meeting in October. That one has to be state, meaning within the California state in scope. And so every year that our state always put together a resolution meeting, and all the branches come together and we present our resolution, and then there's questions back and forth statewide from other branches. That meeting is actually April 15th. And whether you have a resolution or not, you can register to listen to other branches' resolutions and give input, as long as you let me and or the secretaries know that you want to do that. But I believe that whole thing did go out to everyone. If not, put your email in the chat and we'll make sure that we send that information to you so you can be part of the resolution committee. So this year, the deadline to get it into the state resolution was April 1. That didn't work for the local branch of the NAACP because it says that you have to present it to the executive committee, or at least agendize it, and then agendize it with the general membership. And in order to do that, our executive committee meeting was on the 6th of April, and then of course today, the 8th. And so there was no way we were going to make that deadline by April 1. However, the national has the rule, local branches can send their resolutions directly to the national office as long as it's in their office before May 1st. And it's signed by the president and the secretary. And so we're going to choose option B because our resolutions will not make it to the April 15th because of the April 1st deadline. So I have to give all this background. So what we agreed in the executive committee meeting, because we were in a time crunch like we are now, that the resolution committee and the president, which are all the individuals that submitted a resolution, would do the final resolve of the resolutions, and then we would sign it and send it to national so that we would make that deadline. However, it was important to me that individuals had the opportunity to give a summary of what their resolutions were about. So we at the general membership level would know what it's about and know what we would be voting on as we present it to our national office. So with that, I know Stacy had 2 resolutions. Lynn, how many did you have?
One.
Okay. So I'm gonna start with Stacy to give her summary of her 2, and then Lynn, if you can give a summary of your 1, and then I will give the summary of Selena's education. So Stacy, ready?
So my one was, the new one was addressing racial disparities within the healthcare system. As far as research is determined, that it is a national embarrassment that there are large and persisting racial differences in health. as in regards to people of color. And as a society, we need to make it a national priority to build on the cultural support that all are considered equal and the principles and develop strategies to eradicate racial inequities in medical care. And then studies also showed that efforts to reduce racial and ethnic disparities in the quality of medical care should seek to reform the systems for the delivery of care. The racial disparities in medical care should be understood in the context of racial inequities in societal institutions, and that racism appears to be a technological hazard in the practice of medicine. So I am writing on that to bring that we take a look at that and really come together as NAACP to recommend that healthcare entities establish procedures for the monitoring and correction of unexplained disparities in the delivery of services as one of the requirements for continued accreditation and so forth and so on. That impact is impacting our our schools, our lives, and the medical system, and all of the working, the jobs and the amount that we don't get paid, the working wage, the economical disparities. So that's all embedded in this resolution.
Okay, any questions regarding Stacy's resolution? The only thing that I would say for not just you, Stacy, to Lynn as well. You guys may have a lot of information. If you can just keep it to 2 pages or less, that would be great. But we'll work on that before it's sent to national. No questions regarding her first resolution? Hearing none, I'll go to your second resolution, Stacy.
The second resolution was one that I did last year, but it didn't get sent up in time. So I'm resubmitting it, and it was about the food industry's failure to apply equitable and safe practices to serve our communities. And it just shows the lack of the way that food is handled, prepared, and presented as far as the fast food industry. And so I did a lot of research and looked at what research was saying, because COVID was so is so prevalent, and was more so prevalent when it was coming out. It was very important to see how not only just COVID, but how other bacteria is spreaded to us. And so I wanted NAACP to take a look at that, of the practices that are impacting our health, and wanted the NAACP to demand a further investigation on the sanitation procedures that govern public food entities, including but not limited to the FDA, Food and Drug Administration, the FSIS, Food Safety and Inspection Service, and CDC, Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. And that NAACP holds the governing entities over the food industry accountable, along with restaurant and fast food chains, to be held to a higher standard for their compliance with providing safety procedures with the customers they serve, being aware of the transmission of communicable diseases to the communities that they are served, and how they are impacting the people of color, for the NAACP to advocate for new laws to be enforced to uphold safety guidelines that will inevitably affect our marginalized communities made of predominantly Black and Brown people, with the stance to increase the morbidity rates in our population.
Thank you, Stacy. Any questions regarding Stacy's second resolution? Okay, hearing none, when I do the vote, I'm just going to do the vote for all of them at the same time. Hearing none, I'm going to go to Lynn. Can you give us a summary of your resolution?
Yes, very quickly. And Miss Betty, I heard you about the 2 pages. You probably got scared when you saw all the research. I promise that all that.
Oh, you and Stacy.
Both of us.
Yeah, it's just a question of synthesizing it and getting it into these bullet points that are necessary for the whereases. So this would be a resolution. Right now it's federal, and of course I'll replicate it for October state. And it's basically to support changing and well, first of all, supporting the presumption of innocence when you're arrested. Of course, we all know you're not supposed to be, you're supposed to remain innocent until proven guilty. But right now, this is true in both federal and state systems, is that people are held for years until their court, they get their day in court or they receive resolution to the charges. And so this is to support pretrial system changes that focus on health equity, restoration, and care, to replace the current system of punishment by law enforcement before conviction. So this is going to specifically talk about pretrial, and that people should be given care and restoration, and focus on those health inequities to bring about equity, so that people are not treated as if they've been convicted of a crime before it's been proven.
Excellent. Any questions on this resolution? Okay, hearing none. The last resolution is the education, and I was trying to find it while you guys were talking. The short summary is that what Selena is putting forth is a resolution in regards to suspension and expulsion on a national piece, and she was able to find some information nationally how the suspension rates are going. In with that, I'm trying to summarize this. She wants to put accountability on a national level. So if so many suspensions by African Americans are done, that it's flagged within the system, and that there should be some type of accountability and or training, or to revise or look at what's going on within their school system in order to create this, for lack of a better word, a panic button, because you have reached this particular number of suspensions, of expulsions of African American students, and it's over the norm. And so it's a flag for schools from K to 12, that they need to stop and do something, and or possibly be sanctioned by that type of activity. And so that's what it is in a nutshell, without me finding it. And that's somewhat of how she presented it Thursday night. Any questions regarding Lynn?
I love the concept. I'm just wondering, like, how is that going to be framed? Because education, of course, is state by state. And is that going to be like the U.S. Department of Education is being asked to do what? Because I know that there will be state barriers.
So the way she's framing it, that it's going to be on a national piece based on all the NAACP branches in those states and cities and towns. So they will be responsible for rolling this out in their various states, and based on, as you said, their various criterias, because they're having the same problems. However, their criterias may be different than ours. So the onus is going to be on the NAACP branches on a national level.
Ah, very brilliant. I love it.
Thank you. Any other questions regarding any of the resolutions? Hearing none, I'm going to entertain a vote for all of them. All of them. So I'm entertaining a motion that we accept the resolutions as presented and allow the resolution committee and the president to, for any revisions, to move the resolutions forward to our national office before and or by the deadline for national, which is May 1. That's the motion I'm moving.
This is
Entertaining.
Lorraine, I move that motion.
It has been moved by Lorraine. Second?
This is Stacy. I can second it.
Yes. It's been second. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Hi.
Opposed? Abstentions? So moved. I believe, other than announcing that Angelina's on vacation, that's the end of our agenda. And so I just want to thank everyone, every single person, especially with these resolutions. They are not easy. And we had a time crunch that was out of this world. So I'm hoping you guys can breathe a little bit so that we can work on it and critiquing it to the fullest. And our hopes is that all of our resolutions are passed at the national level from the Sacramento branch. With that being said, I am going to bring Lorraine in to, is that Lorraine and Stacy, or start with
Just
Lorraine?
Yep.
To introduce the town hall piece that we're about to go into right now. Lorraine?
Just wanted to kind of recap a little bit what we have been talking about before. We have been talking about the RFPs and how to get money for your business, where to find them, and also how to structure them so that you're able to win a bid. However, if you want to see those playbacks, you can go back to our YouTube channel and you can watch the playback on those specific items. But today we're going to kind of get into the details of the budgeting, the branding, and I also have Plachette here that's going to talk about how her experience was in actually landing one of those contracts. So first, I'm going to bring up Adrian Brown, who's going to be talking about branding. He is the CEO of AB Designs, and he's going to talk about graphics for your business. And then I'm directly after him, I'm going to have Doretha come talk about budgeting and how to structure your budget for your bid. And then we'll hear from Plachette.
Good morning. Hi, everybody. I'm Adrian Brown. I'm a graphic designer and my business is called AB Designs. Today, I'm going to cover how to use graphic for business. Okay. Here are some examples of graphic designs that I cover. Program books, biographies, professional biographies, clothing, websites, business cards, flyers, and also take some plain and make it better, and more. Here are some examples that I've created. Business flyers, program booklets, as you see with participated and helped out with the NAACP as well. Custom calendars, clothing apparel, bottles, and trays. Even for the game I went to last night with the Warriors and the Kings, as you can see, regular clothing that I've pretty much designed and before and after. And these are all the graphics that's on the actual, because there was actually a lot of people that stopped me and asked me about it at the Kings game. Hey, where'd you get your gear at? Or I tell them it was custom designed by me. And a lot of people's interested, so I pretty much gave them my information. Moving forward. Winning contracts require graphics. To win contracts, a proposal package should be appealing and professional. Graphics attract attention, tell a story, communicate information, and effectively. And what it's used for: proposals, reports, biographies, and professional profiles, and more. And as you can see, this is a proposal without graphics. As everybody would say, sometimes less is better, plain, but I'm here to change your life. And this is proposal with graphics. So it's popping, it's vibrant, it catches your attention, it's live. The resources I've used was Mojo, Canva, iStock Photo, and also just to hire a graphic designer if it ain't me. If you have any questions, this is my email, opensfinanceforyou@gmail.com. Don't forget to use graphics for your bid. Thank you. This is AB Graphic Designs.
Thank you so much. Are there any questions about using graphics for your business? It's so important because I know that when I work directly with, say, one of the departments who was offering RFPs, they were kind of explaining a lot of the bids that came across their desk were very plain. And not only are they grading you or rating you on the content, but they're rating on how it's packaged. So it's really important that you package your RFPs in a way that's appealing and that catches the attention. And so next we have a special guest speaker. Her name, and please, can you pronounce your last name for us, Doretha?
Oh, Williams Flournoy. And so Flournoy.
Thank you so much. We have Doretha Williams Flournoy. She is actually a consultant that and also a professional grant writer and fund development consultant. And she's going to be here talking about how to structure your budgets and how to put that together for your RFPs. Another department that I talked about that was on the state level that offered RFPs, they were speaking about how to structure it. Sometimes it's good to start with your budget because once you know what kind of amount they're going to offer, you can structure your line items and then go back and write the content of your RFP based on the line items in your budget. And so that's why I wanted to kind of highlight this section of an RFP so that you can kind of get more information on where to start for your RFP. And so Doretha is going to take over and talk about how to set up your budget.
So thank you, Lorraine. That is exactly what I do. In my own writing, I sort of outline the program first, and then I do the budget. And then I go back and write the program. Because if the budget can't handle all of the things that I want to do, now I have to figure out how to make it happen either within the budget or cut the program, one or the other. So if I start with an outline of what I think I want to do, and then start budgeting it out and see how it fits within the context of the RFP, then that's how I decide what actually ends up in the grant proposal. And I do it that way all the time. I actually love doing it that way because it sort of helps to kind of keep the proposal practical in the beginning, and then I can get idealistic about it once I start writing the proposal. I learned how to write grants when I was working at the Watts Health Foundation, and the the Substance Abuse Mental Health Administration, SAMHSA, the old SAMHSA, came through one day and said, "Hey, you guys need to really beef up your grant writing capabilities." And they said, do you have somebody here who could, go with us and sort of do this work? And what they ended up doing was having me review proposals. That's how I learned how to write grants. So I went to, Washington, D.C., Maryland, and sat with 8 or 9 proposals with me a night, maybe about 40 proposals within the context of a week, and then had to review them. Quickly you learn which proposals are good and which proposals are not. But the one thing that always killed a proposal was the budget. And what people don't understand is that the budget explains what you know about your program and what's realistic and how and gives an example of how well you're able to run a particular project. And so doing your proposal is a really important piece. I'm going to share my screen here and can you guys turn me on so that I can get share my screen? It says something about it's turned off. So I don't know thank you. All right, and so I'm going to run through a few things here, and then if you have questions, we can kind of talk more about it, and then go from there. All right, so I can't tell you how important budgeting is to a grant proposal. If they're going to accept your proposal or deny your proposal, it's going to hinge on this budget piece. And so, but budgeting really is only as good as the financial structure that you have to back it up. And so it's important to kind of start out by understanding the program that you want to implement, define your program, scope it out, you know, how it needs to fit the RFP. Even if it's word for word, you know, if they say they want case management, they want transportation, and they want food, you need to make sure that in your proposal, all those things are listed. But what you need to know is how much is it going to cost you to actually implement case management? What are the salaries going to be for the people you're going to hire? How many people do you need to hire? What kind of support do you need in order to do case management? You need transportation, you need food, you might need clothing for people, you might need linkages and relationships with other entities. And so it's important for you to know what goes into your program in order for you to then budget out what should be happening, budget out the funds that you're going to need in order to run the program. And so establish a format and structure your accounting system. I can't tell you how important that is. Junk in is junk out. So if you don't have a way of tracking your finances, tracking your expenditures, then you're not going to be able to clearly articulate what it costs in order for you to run your program. And so you should identify your direct costs and your indirect costs. Your direct costs are what it actually costs for you to do the program that you are proposing to implement with the funder's money that you're trying to get. Indirect costs are things that influence the program but are not necessarily directly related, or things that are shared by other programs overall. Like, for instance, you have a building, you got 5 programs in the building, all 5 programs share the utilities. All 5 programs share the facility manager. All 5 programs share a little bit of the executive director. Those are the indirect costs. Insurance costs, you know, people don't think about that. Insurance, what does it cost in order to have auto insurance, your general liability insurance, your malpractice insurance, your whatever it is that you need, whatever kinds of insurance policies you need. I have to have, because we have contracts with, I guess I should mention that I'm the senior pastor, executive director for A Church for All, as well as a consultant doing my own thing. But and that entity has within it 2 county programs. One is the Ripple Effect, and which is a mental health respite program, and the other is a African American suicide prevention programs. And they've been in existence the Ripple Effect about 6 or 7 years, about 3 years for the African American Suicide Prevention Project. And we have to have cyber insurance. You know, we also have to have audits. We started out with financial summaries because we had a budget of about $75,000. When we went above $75,000, that put us in the realm where we were to use, we had to have a full blown out audit, which is like $10,000 for each program to have an audit. So you have to have some way of allocating those expenditures, and those are your indirect costs. So select your allocation approach. We do it based upon number of employees. You know, if there's 5 employees and 10 in another program, then 50%, maybe I think it's 50% of the expenditures for that program has, the program that has 5 people in it will pay 50% of what the other program will pay for. Yeah, I'd have to sit down and kind of show you that, but you have to kind of have a way of allocating your expenses across programs in your indirect costs, and being able to describe that is really important. Like I said earlier, junk in, junk out. You have to have a good, reliable, functional chart of accounts. And so most funders want you to have programs that have been in existence for at least 2 years or so. That way, you know what it costs to actually run your program in advance. And if you use your chart of accounts as you are spending money, you can go back and then run a financial statement that tells you everything that you've spent and how much it costs. I heard you talking earlier about one of your programs and how you were going to allocate more funding. I think it was the jazz program or something, the R&B festival. And you know what your expenditures were for last year. And so now you want to make sure you have more than enough for this year. And so what you were able to kind of, the way that you understand that is through your chart of accounts. How much did you spend on people? How much did you spend on supplies? How much did you spend on telephone expenses, advertising? All of that is in that. It will be reflected as you code expenditures using your chart of accounts. And so when you run your operating statement, you will automatically see those if you use an electronic accounting system. We use a QuickBooks. It's a matter of pressing a few buttons, and then all of a sudden I can see the operating statement based on the month. I can see it based on a quarter. I can see it based on a year. So make sure that you, as you are thinking about your budgets, that you allocate your staff salaries, benefits, and taxes. We often forget that, that benefits and taxes should be a part of that. Your payroll taxes, your mandatory taxes like workers' comp, those things have to be included in the budget as well. Assign your direct expenses. Those are the things that are directly related to your program. You can't do the program without these expenses. And then you need to figure out the appropriate method for allocating those expenses as well. Let's see. Let's move on to the next one. What's happening with my? Okay, I'm gonna switch over to another screen for a second and run through a budget that I've used in other places, because I know that I only had 12 minutes. And so I said, oh my God, what am I gonna do in 12 minutes? But what I thought I would do is use this particular budget, and so that you can kind of get a sense of what, this is a complicated budget because this is the county system. And the county does everything, if you ask me, a little bit more intense than what they may necessarily need. But this is how we start. We start by allocating our staffing. And if you're like me, you can't see those numbers down there, but it starts by looking at the number of full-time equivalents, that's the FTE, and the percentage of time that each person is going to be on that particular grant or that particular RFP you're going to present. So we have an executive director. Normally, you don't put an executive director in your direct costs. When you're larger organizations, they don't. You're not expected to have a executive director working on the front lines. But in the smaller programs, and this is, as you can see, is a small program. The executive director is, fielding crisis intervention, sitting down, writing reports, and talking directly to the program staff of the county. They're doing presentations and that sort of thing. So we have an executive director, a program coordinator, a case manager level 1, and case managers level 2. Their FTEs are kind of listed over here on the side. And this is, again, the amount. What we do is we base that on 2,080 hours a year. And then you say, how much time is that person going to work? And you come up with a percentage. And so I could show you that. This is the annual budgets. Be careful. This is where people get tripped up a bit. We start thinking about, oh, this is an opportunity to get, a nice sum of money to fund the executive director or all of us who've been working for free. And now we want to get paid. And they put in these high salaries. And the high salaries, the funder may have ideas about what they think a nonprofit executive director should be paid. And there are standards around that. So you should know whether or not you're within standard, or whether or not you're under standard, or whether or not you are where you should be within that range. $52,000 for an executive director for an annual budget is low. Okay, that's extremely low. But again, this is a small program. It started as a volunteer situation. It is not considered a full-time. It's not a full-time position. So 52,000 is what's set aside for it, but that's not what they actually get paid. And what they end up doing is only working 12% in the program, 12% FTE in the program. So they get of this budget about $6,000. What they like to see is the executive director spread over the over a variety of different programs, or their funding is in more than one place. So if you make the mistake of putting an executive director all in one place, you're telling them that you don't have infrastructure to back up your organization. And so that usually is going to be a red flag for your program. Program core, all of these salaries are low. And I think this is these are all low. I mean, just know they're nonprofits. They're not, and some funders will manage that well and say, we think you should raise your rates for your staff. Others will say, like the county, they like you to go low. And so this is what actually ends up being allocated towards each position within the budget. Okay, and the MHA thing is something different. But so the way the budget is broken down is that you have program staff, you have admin support, you have payroll taxes, which is a percentage of the other, a percentage of the wages for each of those categories. You have employee benefits, which for us includes workers' comp, insurance, and a little bit of money set aside for crisis intervention kinds of things with staff if they have any challenges. And so that's set aside in that. Your operating expenses, you have the office occupancy expenses, which is our rent, office expenses, equipment leases, computer lab and IT support. You have phone and internet service. You have transportation, which is a huge thing in our organization because we have to pick people up every day and bring them into the center. And so this 3,900 is because we already own the van, and this is just mostly gas. And then we have some other training expenses that we have to allocate, and then we go from there. Here is overhead, and it is a breakdown of all of those things as well. Every budget has usually a narrative connected to it when you are doing an RFP. So you are explaining the details of what you are spending your money on. And so I'm just going to kind of run through this real quick and then give you an opportunity to ask questions. This is something that's very time consuming. I usually take about a day to work on my budgets and then come back to them again after I have written the program and look at how they line up. But when I look at the budget narrative should include the FTE for each position. And what's not here is that the dollar amounts are not in there, but oftentimes I'll put the dollar amount for each person. And sometimes we'll actually put the name of the person when it's the first time you're writing the RFP, because they want to know who's on staff already and who do you have to hire. How developed is this program? That's what's being told in this narrative. And so the project director, FTE, the executive director, the admin support, the payroll taxes are at 0.0685. You need to figure that out. Put that in the narrative so that they understand that you know what the percentage is of the payroll taxes that you have to pay. There's an expectation that you pay payroll taxes, federal, state, Social Security, Medicare, all of that, all of those expenditures. They want to know that you know that you're supposed to pay those. And if you are using a bunch of consultants to implement the work, that's a red flag as well. And so, folks want to know how developed, how stable is your organization? Employee benefits, again, how much does it cost to pay for workers' comp? But also, if you offer health insurance, how well do you take care of your employees? That's in your employee benefits section. Let's see. Again, they want to know exactly what the rent is and a percentage of that. I didn't include that in this because this is like my 5th or 6th iteration of this particular grant proposal budget, but for the county, and they kind of have all that on already. Computer lab and IT support, how much is that? Phone and internet, 3 cell phones, internet service for the year, and then the total dollar amount for that. So you get into the details of it. This is fuel repairs budgeted at 3,900. Other occupancy expenses at 9,000 that I told you about earlier is for mental health first aid, safe talk, trauma-informed art therapy, food and counseling activities, and the cost. The insurance is not there. It is down here in our overhead expenditures. And so again, we have to talk about what the wages are, the benefits, and the taxes and how much they are. The program audit expenses are included in this because the audit is not one that the organization has to have. It is a county requirement. So the county has to pay for all of that. However, it really takes $10,000 out of our funded money. And that's 10,000 we could be using for something else. So that's sort of a basic. I'm at about 12 minutes, over 12 minutes already. And so that's it. Any questions?
Wow.
I
Thank
know,
you
that's
so
how I
much.
feel about it. I said, well, I'm trying to breathe now, but you know.
Thank you so much. Would you mind just putting up your info slide on how to contact you for just like a quick second
Sure.
again? But I really appreciate you coming on to talk about budgeting because it's so important. And I know that sometimes that can be an inhibitor for people to finish, applying for their RFPs, getting over the numbers and getting
Yes.
budgeting. So I really appreciate that. So if anyone wants to take a screenshot of this or take a picture of this to further contact Mr. Reed, she is a consultant and she can also help you further with to do one-on-one consulting. All right. Thank you so much, Ms. Taretha. Next, I have Ms. Plachette Roberson, who is the president and CEO of SAC Cultural Hub, who's going to just talk about her experience of landing an RFP and what her experience was in winning those bids. So, Ms. Plachette.
You're on mute, Plachette. You're on mute.
Sorry about that. Hello, everyone. I want to thank the Sacramento NAACP for having me present today. And just to begin, applying for and winning RFPs, grants, it's a pretty exciting and intense process. And I'll just share with two. Our very first RFP that we responded to was as a subcontractor. And I want to talk a little bit about how important it is for, I would say, small nonprofits like ourselves. The SAC Cultural Hub Media Foundation is a small nonprofit. You have small, you have medium nonprofits, and you have large nonprofits. So for us, we're a small nonprofit. We decided to respond to an RFP that came out in 2013. It was Covered California. And so when Covered California came out, it was offering a huge amount of grants across the United States. And the process came out where they were offering these $1 million grants. So of course, our organization at the time could not apply for a $1 million grant because our capacity, we had not built up our capacity. And when I say that, it's when you're doing at least $100,000 to $1 million in services a year. That's what your budget looks like. So we had a very, very small budget. So we decided to respond to an RFP that was put out by the California Black Health Network. And they were looking for subcontractors to come on board to fulfill what they call deliverables and services of, I believe it was going to be a 2-year contract. So we had to pull together our team, and our team is small. And I always say it's not the number of people that you have on your team, but the quality of people that you have on your team that can help put together a proposal, because 9 times out of 10, we always hope to have a 4 to 6 week lead time on responding to a proposal, but it's not usually the case. When this came out, we had actually a less than a week to pull together every aspect of this proposal. And believe it or not, you actually have all the pieces to responding to an RFP when it comes to the budget, the mission, what they're actually asking for as far as the scope of work, and then the objectives that you plan to fulfill as far as what your expertise, our expertise is outreach and education that we do through the website, sacculturalhub.com. We do e-blast and we do banner ads. We do social media. We have the Hub magazine, and we also have events that we do throughout the year. So this is the way we have proposed through the RFP of how we would fulfill deliverables that were spelled out in the RFP. So when I say I have a team, I don't know how to write grants, but we do have a person on board. And that's another aspect, is having people within your team who have the expertise in how to write a grant. So we have a person who knows how to write a grant. I have a person who specializes in marketing and also knows how to write a grant. And the person who's a grant writer knows how to put together the budget. So we were able to come together with less than a week and be able to put together, I would say at that time, it was kind of a massive proposal for us. So we brought together the proposal, we submitted it, and I think it was going to be 2 weeks before we could find out from the California Black Health Network, because there were lots of folks that were applying, and it was a $200,000 grant. And so we were really excited about it. It was an intense process, but lo and behold, we heard great news and we won that proposal. And what I'll say about winning proposals is so that was in 2013. So we have had a go at, writing proposals, submitting for proposals, having a bunch of no's. We have been rejected and received a lot of no's on several different RFPs. That particular one, we got a yes. And that really excited us. We were really happy about it. But what I'll say about winning proposals, winning the proposal will probably be the easiest versus fulfilling the proposal, because now the real work starts, okay? Everything you put in a proposal, which we always refer to deliverables. I know a lot of times I am on social media and we're just talking about different projects that we're doing, and we're hoping that we're fulfilling our deliverables, because whatever you put into your RFP, you can rest assured now you're going to have to fulfill and meet those different deliverables. So again, winning the RFP is great, but a lot of times, like that particular grant, monthly, we had to submit progress reports and expenses that we had monthly in order to receive payment, okay? So a lot of times you don't learn about these things until after receiving the proposal. I mean, the funds or the RFP, okay? So we actually knew that in reading the proposal, but then you get into the nuts and bolts and the nitty gritty of how you get paid and how you progress in the grant, because what's really important about fulfilling the deliverables is that you'll have a final report that is actually due at the end of the grant. And this is how you have to know as a nonprofit that a lot of these different selection committees and people out there, especially in the small town of Sacramento that we live in, and then across California, they all know each other and they talk to each other. So you need to be able to do everything you said you were going to do, submit the statistical report and the data that is expected of you, either if it's on a monthly basis or on a quarterly basis, of what you did in this grant, your expense reports. And most of the time when you depend on a monthly or a quarterly check payment that is going to be distributed to you, then you are doing those things. But rest assured, you have to fulfill those things. That's a part of winning the RFP. That's what makes it for your end to be successful in the project that you've won a particular RFP, because there will be more RFPs and projects that come out. And as long as you are running your nonprofit and you want to be successful at your nonprofit and receiving funding, where someday you may be able to apply, which we have. We've applied for grants that are $500,000, grants that are $1 million grants. And we've applied in collaboration. That's another thing, is like we did with the California Black Health Network. You don't always have to be the prime, which is the prime contractor is the actual main person applying for the grant. Okay, that means that you have to be at full capacity. You are responsible for the overall budget, and there's so many more responsibilities that come with that. So I would say the best way to start off sometimes with responding to grants and building up your capacity is to start off as a subcontractor. That's how we did. We became successful at being a subcontractor on larger grants, learning all of the ins and outs, as I would say, from the back end, that prepared us for applying for major grants as a prime, where we would work with places like the Sierra Health Foundation. Just recently, we, through the Soul Project, was successful at winning a grant with Haluna Health, which is a huge organization that houses a lot of nonprofits. So again, it is a two-part process. It is applying and it is winning the grant. And I'll say, when the two-part process, fulfilling those deliverables, okay? So that you establish a good track record, because believe it or not, every time you apply for these RFPs, those RFPs want to know, what were your past projects? What were your past experience on winning or projects that are related to this particular RFP that you're applying for? So you're establishing a track record so your funder can see that this is what you've done in the past. This is what makes you a great candidate for this particular fund, thus allowing you to possibly win that contract. And then it just becomes a revolving door, but a great revolving door. You know, again, it's an intense process. It's an exciting process. It does involve work. It is not, these RFPs, it is not for the faint-hearted. A lot of success comes with winning these RFPs, being funded, having a track record. The budget that was talked about is essential. It is, definitely, because we follow by that budget. Our grant writer makes us, we discuss our budget. It's the weekly check-ins that help you. You should have your weekly check-ins either by Zoom, either by text, and constant communication by email, so you can be successful with fulfilling the grant, so that you continue to win grants.
Thank you so much, Plachette. Are there
You're
any
welcome.
questions from Plachette about her
Yes.
experience or what she's presented today?
Great information.
If there are no more questions, then I do want to thank our special guest speakers, Adrian coming on talking about branding, Ms. Doretha coming on talking about budgeting, and Ms. Plachette talking about her experience and what it actually takes to win a contract. Lastly, I want to introduce or further invite people to come to a certification workshop. So there are different kinds of RFPs that are offered by the state, federal government, or even your local city and county. And sometimes it takes a certain business structure or certain pieces to your business that will make you qualified to get those and win those bids. And so the NAACP, along with One Solution, is going to be hosting a DGS Certification Day workshop. And I'm going to share the flyer here, where we're going to have representatives from those federal and state departments to come and do some hands-on technical assistance in getting you certified that day. We're going to have a guest speaker to talk about business formation, how to put that together. We're going to have someone talk about the documents it takes to open up a bank account for your organization, whether it's a nonprofit or a corporation or a sole proprietor. We also have someone from a procurement counselor from the Apex, which is previously PTAC, and also the certification manager from the Office of Small Business, which is the Department of General Services, to come, and with her team's going to come and provide technical assistance. So I highly encourage everyone to take this information. If you can't use it for yourself, please share it with someone else. I'm going to include the Eventbrite link in the chat box so that you can register. And I do want to let you know that we have very limited seating.
Oh,
Did
are you
everyone
about to
see
show the
flyer?
flyer now? Okay, there it
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm going to include the link in the chat box so that you can register. Again, we have limited seating, so we people have been signing up already. So I suggest that you sign up or share this information. Are there any more questions before we end this discussion?
I just want to thank you, Lorraine, and everyone that participated. This is being recorded. It's going to be edited and put on our Facebook Live as well as our YouTube. But back to the certification, we will send this flyer out. It's already went out on our newsletter, and it's going to be on our website and some other places. But the certification with the AB 2019, if you're not familiar, it's a game changer that the governor just signed, where it's really pushing the primes to subcontract 25% of some contracting to be with minority-owned small businesses. But what's even bigger than that is that the governor is pushing for them to prove that they actually have minority businesses. And if they don't, they will lose their prime contract. And so I recently had to get my own business recertified. And Pachette knows this because she's probably certified herself, but you get these letters instantly once you upload your information, right? It's the first time that I got the instant letter saying you are certified again for 3 years. But that first paragraph actually quoted the AB 2019 and said, congratulations, you are now qualified to be one of those 25%ers to get a subcontract from the state of California. And that language has never been in my certification letters before. And so I don't think enough of our Black community know the significance of becoming certified in order to get this money. And so what we're doing with the NAACP on May 11th, and it's going to be at the Urban League, we have computers set up, and we're going to have folks that can bring their laptops. And the hope is that they walk out the door with an actual certification. We've done this before. In the past, we had 62 small businesses show up. 47 of them walked out with an actual certification, paper in hand. We had primes that showed up that waited on them because they needed to maintain on the federal level some of their contracts. And so they waited on those folks to walk out the door with their certification so that they can interview them and bring them in immediately to be subcontractors, something that Pachette talked about earlier. So it's definitely a game changer, and the seats are limited because of the computer space. And so please share this information. Being certified, not only that AB 2019 is the game changer, but just having your name on the list of the state. Prime example would be Louisiana Heaven. I needed them to be my caterer for our swearing in, but it was at a state facility, Secretary of State. And they were asking me, is she on the list? I'm like, how do you get on the list? And she had to be certified. So we had to get her certified prior to the date of our event, right? And so we did get her certified, and we were able to choose her as our caterer. So she didn't have to put on a proposal at all. She just had to be on the list. And how do you get on the list? You have to be certified. How many of our community members, Black community business owners, know that? And so if this is going to be a game changer, not only are we going to do this time, we're going to try to do a number of them, but we're going to start with this one and we're going to try to do it statewide. So the information that you all shared was huge this morning, absolutely huge. And so I know once we get this recording edited and it goes out on our YouTube and website and Facebook Live, we're going to get so many hits. We'll probably have to ask you guys to come back again because your information was so good. But thank you. And that's all I had, other than every second Saturday, we're here with the Greater Sacramento NAACP from 10 to 12 with our town hall and our business meetings. If you would like to contact the NAACP, you can call or text us at 916-856-0155. And our website is nacpsac.com. If you'd like to become a member, it's only $30 for a year adult membership, $10 for a youth membership. And if you would like to be a lifetime membership, it's $750, which will truly give you a lifetime. You wouldn't have to pay any more. We do have the ability to pay $75 once a month for 10 months in order to become a lifetime member. But as always, our membership is power, and we appreciate everyone that has participated in today's event. And with that, Lorraine, I'm going to hand it over to you for last words, and we can end.
Thank you so
Miss
much, everyone.
Betty.
That's all I have. Thank you, everyone. Have a great day.
Thank you. Enjoy. Happy Easter, everybody.
Happy Easter. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.